Hello, Sough 5th grade teachers. We are here in our art studio. We're gonna make a little film for you guys to help you get started on creating your piece for the mural, so that your art can be included in the mural that we're doing. But first, we wanted to say thank you so much for letting us work with your kids this year. It's been a crazy year, and it's been a challenge for everybody, and we're just glad that we got to come in and integrate some art into the curriculum. It was a fun challenge for us to try to do that, and we really enjoyed it. We love the school and the teachers and the students. You guys have all been really great.
So we wanted to show you guys the mural in progress. So if you take a look, you can see I've got everything sketched out so far. And what we're looking for from the teachers is more marine life, because I think we have enough pieces from all the kids to fill in the continents. So that's what we are going to do for our demonstration today. So everybody got a paint kit that we put together. So you'll have all your colors in here. So black, white, and then your primaries and a brown. So you should be able to create whatever color you need out of those. So I have picked for my marine life a crab. So I just Googled it and I found a red crab. So I'm gonna do this guy for my painting. So what I like to do is kind of sketch it out beforehand. And then to get my colors out, I'll just use a brush and put my colors. I already put some black out here. Put my colors on my palette. And then I think I'll mix some of this yellow in as well. Okay, so when I sketch things out, I usually, if I'm doing an animal, I'll start with the head. But I'm just looking at the overall shape of this crab. And when you guys are creating your pieces, you don't have to worry about them being entirely 100% accurate. So I'm just using it as a reference, but I won't worry about, it's got all these little spikes. I won't worry about putting those spikes on. Okay, so I think that sketch looks good to me. So what I recommend doing is kind of doing your lighter colors first. So, if I wanted to do kind of an outline, I would save that till the very end. You don't necessarily have to outline, but I tend to do it with my work. So what I'll go ahead and do is mix up some of my colors here. So just for variation, I already have some white I put out as well. So I think I'll do maybe kind of like a pink. So maybe do highlights for my crab with that. But my main crab will be this red. I guess I can use a larger brush for this. Okay, so I got my main shapes in, and then I'll go back and do detail work with the smaller brush. So I'm just doing kind of orange around the edges, reddish orange. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Maybe I'll just get some of this pink and do some shading on the shell. And then as far as the background, you guys don't have to worry about adding stuff to the background unless you want to, because we'll probably end up cutting these pieces out. And you can also do some blending while your paint is wet if you like. So the cool thing about acrylic, if you don't like it, you can just go back over it. All right, so that looks pretty good to me. You know, I kind of rushed through it, so you guys can take your time while you're working. And so that's it for my demo, and Anna will do the next one. See.
Okay, so as Keith was saying when I cut off his film, that we both have different styles of working, so that's why I'm doing a demo as well. So I picked for my inspiration image this vintage octopus illustration. So, you know, think about what kind of source you want to work from. You could work from a really scientific source, or you could work from something more fantastical. That's up to you. Like Keith was saying, these don't need to be really realistic. They can just be fun. So Keith likes to start his with a drawing, but I just kind of start with color. So I'm gonna mix a gray blue. There. Okay, and I'm gonna add a little water to thin it. So I like to just kind of start with a light color and sketch my I might use a little smaller. This brush is kind of wacky. Use it smaller. Now that messed my color up. Okay. Alright. I'm just take a little bit. If you get your color too dark, you can take a little bit of it aside and then add white to that, and it's going to be easier to lighten it that way than it will be to like add a bunch of white. You might not even have enough white to do it that way. So that's a pro tip. Okay, so now I'm just gonna try to get this octopus's shape. And so what I'm looking at is like the length of its tentacles and where it's, you know, just the scale of how big I can make its head. It's got this bulbous, cool head I want to capture. And then, so I know my longest tentacle is going to be Oh, these are all entangled. Well, you know, this is just my inspiration. So again, don't feel tied to your picture. You're making something different. It doesn't have to come out looking exactly like the photo that you are working from. So, you know, it's loosely based on it. So I'm just going to add in these tentacles. And it's actually a lot easier to paint them in than it is to draw them, because I can do the whole tentacle with one brush stroke rather than trying to trace the outline of it, which is going to be a little trickier. So you guys, when you're picking your sea animal, feel free to pick one that just makes you happy, that you want to do. And also try to see if you can pick one that other people haven't thought of. Like, I don't think we have any sea otters. We may have a sea turtle. I'm not totally sure. Are there sea otters, or are they just river otters? I don't even know. Anyway, like I said, just pick something that you are excited to do. And that way your painting is going to turn out better if it's something that you're into. So this tentacle is really awkward. It kind of comes down. And now this line that I drew here is kind of in my way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing a tentacle somewhere. So let's see. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. There's another one here. Okay. So, now that I don't want this line here anymore, I'm just going to take some pure white, like Keith was saying a minute ago. You know, you can paint over stuff that you don't want. Even though I'm going to cut this out, and I would cut that line away, is a little bit confusing as I'm like starting my painting, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. So that's like the basic shape and the base color for this octopus. I'm going to fill in his head a little bit more. So now I want to add some highlights. So I'm going to take some more white and highlight. I'm pulling even just a little, whatever's on my brush right now, and just mixing a little white to it, because it's going to blend in. So I'm just going to start to kind of go around where the eyes are going to go. It's got some really cool bulbous eyes, and like the head is mostly in highlight. And then I can also start to define these tentacles a little bit better. It's hard to even tell what's going on with these a little bit. This one is coming out and then going over the top. So that highlight kind of helps show, you know, where each one is coming from on the octopus. So I think this one is in front. I got a little blue on the tip of my brush, which wasn't intentional, but I kind of like it, actually. And then let's see, so this one goes behind. Let me get a little bit more paint so I can okay. Yeah, the octopus is a little bit complicated to do, it turns out. So my image just went out, but you know, when you get to a certain point with these, it's kind of a good idea to stop looking at your image so much and just really pay attention to what you're actually painting, if that makes sense, because your image, you can get obsessed with trying to make it look like the image, and then that takes the fun out of it. When you take the fun out of it like that, it's like the painting's not going to turn out as good. So, okay, so now I can go ahead and add some darker details that are going to show up a little more. So I'm going to take the black and I'm going to mix it with this darker gray that I have over here. This palette's getting to be a bit of a mess. That's okay. I want it to be really dark because I want it to show up. If your paint gets really thick, I'm thinning it out with some water because I'm about to do some fine line details, and actually gonna probably switch down to the smaller brush. So if your paint's a little bit thinner, you don't want it too thin because then it's just gonna blend in with what you have and not show up. But if it's thinner, you'll be able to do those details skinnier. I might just work with pure black because it's gonna mix in anyway. I'm gonna put some little eye wrinkles around. And so as I kind of add the shadows around this like bulbous head, I'm gonna let it blend a little bit with what's there. And then I can come along. I don't know if I'm gonna add shadows everywhere to each of these tentacles, but like the part that's kind of facing down, I'm gonna add a little bit of a shadow too. And then that's also gonna help, you know, the viewer see which tentacle is what. And which one is in front and which one is behind. And like the end of one and the start of the other one. So if I get too much out of the lines here, or off the, I'm not worried because I can cut it close to the edge. So if my brush strokes get a little bit out of where they're supposed to be, it's not a big deal. Okay, so that's like the main details here. And now the last thing I'm gonna do is come along and do some little, what are the little suction, I guess they're called suction cups that are on the end. I'm mixing a brighter blue. I need some more white. So a little goes a long way with these colors. So I'm gonna start another white section over here and just mix a little blue into that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna get it on the tip of my brush. Actually, you know what? For it to show up, it's gonna need to be a little bit darker. Yeah, you want all your details to show up. Like if you're taking the time to do these minute details, make sure you're doing them in a color. I might even add some red to it just so that it stands out a little bit. You won't be able to tell it has red in it, but and this brush is not round enough at the tip. It's giving me these like sideways little dashes, and I want little round dots. So usually you can, although Keith and I, our brushes get a lot of use and they get worn out really quickly, and then that makes it hard to do little dots with them because they're not you know, pristine and brand new. So I'm probably just gonna go over this. And again, you know, this is gonna be way up in the air above the hallway, so chances are no one is gonna even see these little dots. But I cannot make an octopus and not give it some suction cups. It's just not gonna happen. Make them a little bit bigger so maybe they'll show up more. Okay, let's see. So that's probably enough. Like we don't need to go into a whole lot of detail. And again, like Keith, I'm kind of rushing through this. But you guys feel free to take as much or as little time as you need to with these. The important thing is you guys' participation. Doesn't have to be perfect, you know. But I think the kids will get a kick out of seeing your work in the mural as well. So it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and have a great spring break.